there we go. I wonder if I went live a second ago and then disappeared again. I was struggling. I was struggling. You know what I needed? I needed this. I needed to say, cheers, my dears. Happy Friday. Welcome back, everybody. It's great to see you. Can't believe it's Friday. Everything seems very out of sync lately, but it is Friday. And what a great night we have planned. First things first. Cheers, my dears. Mm. As you can see, I'm not in one of my usual haunts. I'm at my mom's house tonight, and I brought the kids over for a weekend. We haven't visited for a while because she hurt her leg, and now she is better. So we are on top of her again. But having a night here, and it's great to see you. I'm super excited to do this idea that we talked about earlier in the week as we were looking at the current issue, November, December 2024, of Rug Cooking Magazine. And the idea came up in one of the articles of doing something that was like your first piece and your last piece. And turns out it really is a great idea. We got some great, I don't want to say entries, submissions. We got some great submissions for tonight. A lot of you sent in your first piece and your last piece, your current piece. And again, I just want to stress the point, if you didn't see the last couple of episodes when we were kind of talking about doing an episode with this theme, first and last, it is not about good, better, best. It's definitely not about that. It's about, this is what I was interested in, and this is what I meant to do on my first piece, and this is what I'm into now, right? And that will never stay the same for anybody. But for a lot of artists, and we are all artists, there isn't necessarily an evolution, right? Sometimes there are these great chess-like parallel movements where we say like, ooh, I'm feeling like Van Gogh, all blue lately, entering my blue period. And you just work differently, right? Technique wise, you do learn more, you practice more, you put more into your bag of tricks. But depending on the style that you liked and you did in the first place, a lot of these like first coming out of the gate pieces are really excellent. And probably only to the maker do they seem like they're not as technically good as the current piece or the last piece. So interesting how that is, but I also can't put too fine a point on it because I think it is important to say it's not necessarily better. It's just you're working differently. Each person has made decisions along the way to say, I did like doing it this way, but then I got tired of it and I was over it. And then I moved into this kind of technique. I'm doing something completely different. Some people move very, very fast, right? Those are the rug cooking fireballs. That's Buttons with his squeaky toy. Sorry. Uh-oh. He's hiding under the table now, squeaking his toy. You be a good boy. Good boy. He a good boy. Some people move like fireballs, right? From project to project to project and change every time, right? And to some extent, I do that too. I like it when the pendulum swings very, very far. That is a frantic kind of frenetic personality type, right? A little bit schizophrenic, right? Something different every time. And other people, we have so many buddies in our group who I shouldn't have said just, who love primitive and stick with primitive, right? Love the cut, love the feel, love the result, love the tricks you can do, difficult though they are, with that big wide strip. So so I don't want to ramp up to tonight with the idea of like, look how far you've come. I don't want to do that. I just want to say, admire the first and the next, and make helpful comments along the way, but not think of things like, wow, like it's like a weight loss night where it's like, whoa, look at you go, girl. It's not really about that at all. So let me first say hi to all my buddies who are here. Melanie, great to see you. Happy Friday night. Great to see you. You're Cook and Cloudy in Western Hooky. Dang it, cool and cloudy. Okay, I knew we would get there eventually. Cool and cloudy in Western Washington. Oh man, Linda, great to see you. Cheers, my dears. To almost gallery night. Before it is a night of looking at other people's work, and I guess like we need as many excuses as we can get for making opportunities to look at people's work and talk about it in a always positive way. Always positive. Cheers, my dears. I like that. I also love my water. Gonna have some of that too. So Linda B, good to see you. You're from your hooking chair in New Jersey. Melissa, great to see you. Good evening. And looking forward to tonight's show. Me too. Rainy and damp there tonight. Oh, man. Well, good thing it's night, right? Can't expect anything of the night. I know you love your rainy days, though. I know you do. And Becky, great to see you. Good evening to you, too. Time to sit and relax. You need a nice, relaxing cocktail night. Here we go. We got you covered. Karen, great to see you. Hello from day 3 of snow in Black Forest, Colorado. Having a glass of wine with the fire going. That's right. You were expecting a lot of snow and you are getting it. Meatloaf and baked potatoes in the oven. Oh, God, I love meatloaf so much. So much. Meatloaf in my mind like represents like all of that. Guys, stick to the ribs, great cozy eatings and old-timey places, right? It's always good. It's always different. It's always good. Gail, great to see you. Good morning in Australia. Happy coffee time to you. And Cheryl, great to see you. Cheers, my dears. After a windy, was it windy out on the Cape? A windy fall day. Ooh, I bet most of the leaves are down if it was blowing around like that, right? Chrissy, great to see you. I haven't seen you for a while. Happy cocktail night. Good to see you, my love. April, great to see you. Happy cocktail night. Loving the cover rug. Beautiful. Yeah, I felt a little guilty because I put covers on from Amzi 2 times in a row, and I thought, oh, that's like I'm not like really. I always want to be fair and kind of show different people in cover shots. But the moon, right? The moon, because I put one of Amzi's on for the Wednesday show, which we started with her article in Rug Hooking Magazine. It was a gorgeous rug, the Cape May rug. But then I saw the moon that she did, and I thought, oh, that's so good for an evening show. I'm going to do it. It was beautiful. So apropos. Oh, Buttons is back. What you doing, my man? Coming to smell my crotch, that's all. Here, you want to come up? Come here. You can make Buttons go say, Buttons say, oh, does my breath smell? Oh, does my breath smell? He just had a bath yesterday. A home bath. He didn't go, look at his face. He's like, oh, did I do that? He hears Kami in the next room because I'm at her house and she's one room over. He's such a good boy. Oh, happy cocktail night to you too. And yes, April, that moon is amazing. I love that piece. Ryan, great to see you. Peace and love to you too. Samantha, great to see you. Welcome and happy Friday night. Down he goes. Down, you're going to go down. You're going to stay here. You're going to stay. Okay. Diane, great to see you. Cheers, my dears from Texas. If you're going to say it, I got to do it too. Cheers, my dears. I just had a nice grilled cheese sandwich. Grilled cheese and wine. That has got to be one of the great companion drink meals in the history of cuisine. Samantha, do you have moderators? I'm not really expecting anything because it's usually a great group, but we tend to moderate collectively. And if anything odd pops up, usually someone is on it in faster than you can finish typing it kind of thing. So I think we're probably good. Wendy, good to see you. Happy evening from Western Pennsylvania. Maureen, happy evening to you too. You see that solder classes are posted and you noticed my gallery talk. Thank you for noticing. Registration for the classes is next Wednesday the 13th. It came up quickly. Came up incredibly quickly. Yeah, I am going to have that gallery show for the Haunted Rug, and many of you will be involved in that in the gallery talk. So I opted for a gallery talk first thing in the morning. I'm just not good at night. I'm fine sitting like this on the couch at night, but I'm not good at standing up and being alert at night. So I think that morning gallery talk will be a perfect slot and hopefully a good way to start that day. I'll probably bring some vending stuff too, but not a full blast booth. I just can't sit there for days growing roots in the floor, Yeah, I can't. But I will be there. I will be there, and I'm really excited. Thank you for noticing. Anita, great to see you. Cheers, my dears, to you too in London, Ontario. Great to see you. Joy, great to see you too. Happy Friday night from North Carolina. Great to see you. Amzi, you are there. You made it. Cheers, my dears, to you too. And Dave, good to see you. Lentil fritters. What? In hard cider. Glad to be there. Oh, I'm glad you are there. First night of 0 degree weather. Wow, already it seems so early. Amzi, happy early birthday to you. Tomorrow is your birthday. Happy early birthday. Lucky you, your birthday falls on a Saturday this year. It's like the best day of the week, isn't it? Oh, happy birthday to you. I'm so glad that you're here with us on the eve of your birthday. Barbara says, swapping ice cream for wine tonight. That's a wise move. Happy Friday night. Oh, he is so cute. He is so cute, isn't he? He's such a good boy. He loves to come to Gami's house. He's just frantic and he's like so emotional on the 1 hour drive over. He's just like, and he's frantic. He's like shaking. He's shaking. He just wants to get here so quickly. He sits in the front seat on Teddy's lap and he puts his paws up on the dashboard and I think he thinks he's like the captain of the car. Like he's projecting us from our town an hour away to my mom's house. He's just up there like shaking and panicked, and then as soon as the door opens, he's like in her arms. He just can't get enough. He loves her so much. Jenny, great to see you. And Kenai, Alaska, great to see you. Kenai, sorry, Kenai. I'm so sorry. Thank you for that. I am so happy to get to watch this live for the first time. I know it, right? The time never works out. Time zones because for me to watch oh yeah, you have to do the recorded version. What's different tonight? Did it just line up different, or because of the time change, the fall back and all that, did it line up a little bit better? Buttons is so cute. Thank you, Gail. He is so cute. You're welcome, Amzi. Jenny says, I got my swag bag today. Amazing. Holy cow, what huge treasures inside. Oh, you are so welcome. My book is slowly making its way across the country. It's in Seattle today. Gosh, it's taking a while, isn't it? Sorry about that. I forgot to bring it, but I ordered the hardcover version, and I keep meaning to show it to you all because the soft cover is fantastic and I love it, but it is like the workbook format, right? It's thick and it's got like the flat pages. The hardcover is the deluxe coffee table version. So obviously I bought both because this is like my baby and I love it. But the hardcover is nice. It's a big, thick hardcover. It's a large book, and all the pages are glossy. So that's like the deluxe one that I always want to have in eyeshot because I will always love that book. Although we are already talking about the Mystic Carpet, the next fall book, and the book that's in the middle, which is The Rose's Tale, and that is based on the rose patterns that came out last March when I did a rose a day, if you remember during that time how much fun that was, researching roses and the origins of the names of all of the crazy roses. They have such crazy, anything that you can think of, there's a rose that has that name, pretty much anything. So that's kind of fun, isn't it? But and it's been fun designing, and I'm refining a few of the designs, but we'll talk about what's available and how we're going to attack this book because it will be a slightly different format than the Haunted Rug. I will stick with the fall books being that format, but I want to take my time with the Rose book because we don't have like a hard end to this project, but it is our next group project. Magpie Time submissions are going to close on November 10th, which is coming up. Today is what? The 8th. So Sunday, that's a good day, right? The day after Amzi's birthday. That's a good day to keep in mind, an easy day to say, okay, let me try to get my Magpie stuff done for the weekend. That's the winter edition, which will be called Marshmallow World. Anything winter themed that you have can go into the gallery. If you give me a little text, I like that even better. I always prefer something like, oh, I drew this or I bought this pattern because I love this about it. This is how I felt making it. This is why I loved it. This is why I made these choices. I always prefer those kinds of words to like number 2 cut 4.5 by whatever. You know what I mean? Technical is technical. It's great, and I guess it's important. But I always love to know why you chose it and how it was actually doing it. If stuff happened, if it was smooth, what TV show you were watching while you were doing it, or what audiobook you were listening to. All of that fun stuff to me is the best part of hearing about someone's project. So whatever you want to tell and whatever you want to write, we want to include. So be thinking about that on Sunday, and then soon after, I will put the Magpie up for sale over the weekend. I've been just slammed lately because I've been getting Tigger stuff ready behind the scenes too, and crunching numbers and stuff like that, and really big numbers, really sticker shocky numbers. So it's been a fireball of busyness here this week. So there's a lot of things happening that aren't visible. But yeah, soon there's going to be a bunch of different things that pop at the same time. And I will always tell you what's going on, what's coming up, what classes and events are coming up, and when it's time to do the next thing if you're interested in the next thing. But the next thing at this moment is our evening, and it is going to be a nice evening. I hope that this is a theme that we will repeat. It is such a lot of fun looking at people's... Come on back. He's a camera hog. He's He's walking in between my mom and I, between these two rooms. He has what my mom Teddy keeps saying. He keeps using this expression. It might be a new expression. Um, Main character syndrome. He keeps saying for people in his class who are attention pigs, or have to be divas or the center of attention. He keeps referring to that as main character syndrome, and I think that's a good way to put it, isn't it? I think Buttons has main character syndrome. I think so. Yeah, he's yeah. He's got it. He's got the dog version of that. All right. All right. Well, I'm going to start this in just a second, but I'm going to start off. I put in a first and last too. So I'll start off with this one. Let me just take a swig. I feel so hot. I shouldn't have eaten all of that Indian pepper stuff. It's like a condiment on my meal because it's like, whoo, I'm still struggling. All right, that cooled me down a little bit. So I'm going to show you my first rug. We're going to start there, and then I'm going to show you the rug that I just took off the frame yesterday. It's a rug for Magpie, so it's also a sneak preview of a rug that I had been working on. So this is my first rug, and I don't even know what it's called. It looks like this, and it's probably, gosh, well, if this piece of paper is what, 8.5 by 11, then this is 7. This is 7. It's 7 by 7 inches. So it's this little rug here. You can see it's an autumn leaf, and it looks like this. And I did this probably in, I want to say, it was probably the year that Joss was born. I think it was probably, yeah, I think it was the winter that she was born. So it was probably 2013. And I did this from a kit, and I don't remember where I got the kit. I asked my mom for the kit for Christmas. That's what it was. Because I was living in the Netherlands, and this was, you all probably know this miserable story, but I was super, super, super depressed and super homesick. And we had just moved from the center of Amsterdam to a beautiful little house. It really was a beautiful little house in Zaandijk, which is outside. And it was great. I had just had Jocelyn. I was already fairly miserable, and the sort of shine of living in the Netherlands for me completely had rubbed off at that point. And I was just searching for things to keep me happy, right? In the little bit of time I had with two kids that are under 2 years apart. Because right now, how old are they, Mom? Joss is 12 and Teddy's 13. They're a little bit more than that. They're not quite Irish twins, but they're pretty damn close. Because I was in my 40s, right? So I was not messing around. But, the day revolved around they were always great sleepers. They both slept through the night from the beginning. I can't say that I ever had like a bad night's sleep because of these two children. We always slept, which was great. I'm not a great sleeper, but it wasn't because of them. So, it just wasn't a great time. And then every morning my husband would leave for work, and he would walk to the train station where the elevator was broken for about 3 years. So I was not able to use the train station because I needed to get downstairs and come up on a platform in order to take the train. So that was a joy. But he would take off in the morning, and then I would be there with the two kids. And, outside of the city, in the city, everybody spoke English. And even though I was taking Dutch and I was good enough to speak Dutch to Dutch people, you couldn't do that in the countryside because they didn't for the most part know English. So I was really struggling with language and with weather. Hey, I'm doing a live show. Oh, speaking, I'm talking about the first years of your life in the Netherlands. Whoa, how'd you do that?
I don't know.
Okay, and nothing spilled.
All
right. He's my big clunky baby now. He my clunker.
All right, I love you.
So it was like, everything for me was a hunt to find something that kept me busy. And quilting a little bit was one of them. But it was always hard in such a small space to always have the sewing machine out. We ended up clearing out the back room, which was about the half the size of a small bathroom. And it was jammed with storage stuff too, but I had like my sewing machine set up in there. It was dark in there. It was hard to get lighting in there. It really was not a room. And it was not temperature controlled. It was miserable. And I was really looking for something a craft that I could enjoy, that I could stay in the living room, in the family room for, because they were, on the floor, crawling around and pulling themselves up onto tables and furniture, and I wanted to be right there all the time. And I did a little bit of hand quilting and stuff like that, and nothing really hit the spot. And then I started researching crafts that were distinctly, North American crafts, to feed into the feeling of homesickness that was just overwhelming at this point. And I found rug hooking, and I thought, oh, okay, well, I've done other types of, well, I've done all kinds of needle stuff, right? I have a degree in basically sewing. I had done stuff with rugs and other forms of rug making in the past, sort of braided stuff, latch stuff, things that you would expect, right? But not rug hooking. And I thought, ooh, could this be something? And I immediately, because I'm a fiber person and I do know, I know how to do a lot of other fiber crafts. It occurred to me immediately that this could be a real sort of shapeshifter, chameleon of a craft, because I thought, okay, well, I can see that they're selling wool kits online, but I mean, we didn't get a lot of wool over there. They don't really do thrift stores over there. So I thought, I wonder if I could cut up the kids' clothing because they were growing out of it faster than I could buy it. So it immediately occurred to me that this could be a good craft because I could use stuff up. Shopping was a huge problem over there. I wondered, can I use my crochet hook? All the things that you would wonder at the beginning of this craft. So I asked my mom for the kit to take the mysteries, a lot of the mysteries out of doing the first piece. And I thought, once I have the parts in my hand and I can see what they want to sell me, I'll be able to tell what parts of it are necessary, how I can improve on these basic tools, and sort of improvise to make it like it perfect for me in a place where they wouldn't have any supplies at all. So we got this kit, and she got me the leaf, and I was really happy. This is the one that I wanted because it reminded me of New England and it reminded me of home. And the kit came with instructions. It came with a little frame. That is the little frame you see me use a lot. It was 10 by 10. I think the frame was Nystock Farm. I'm not sure if this was too, to be honest. It might be that it was. But there are only a few patterns to choose from. It came with a basic hook. I'm not even sure I don't remember what the hook was. I might still have it. I just can't picture it. It came on monk's cloth. I don't want to show you the back yet. I want to do I want to show you the back with a little bit of fanfare. But it came on monk's cloth, and I hooked it up in one afternoon, and I thought, oh, I love this. I just love this. So it did come with a bunch of instructions about this is how you pull the loops up, and it was written instructions. So I did what I do with all sets of instructions, which is immediately throw them out without reading them. And it was the same. It was the same for this. So this is what the back of the first piece looks like, because I didn't read the instructions. I figured this is not rocket surgery, right? Like I can see that there's fabric. I can see you're supposed to put the fabric onto the frame, and I'm guessing you're pulling stuff with the hook, right? Because it's a hook. And so I just started doing it, and I didn't know at that point that the idea is to tuck your tails pull your tails onto the top and then clip them. So I ended up with like a tail party on the back, da 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 da, and didn't think anything of it. But now when I see it, I think, yeah, how much I didn't know. And at this point, right, it's gone full circle because there's been at least 100, if not several hundred projects in the meantime. And, I often leave the tails underneath still. And it's just because sometimes I feel like the top is looking too congested and too ratty, and I just don't want them on the top. I don't see any real benefit to having them on the top. This is a lot on the bottom. And, if this was on the floor, I don't know that I'd want that many tails, right? They turn into like little knobby knots underneath, although these are laying pretty flat. But it's a lot of tails for sure. But beautiful wool, beautiful fabric, and it got me going on my favorite hobby ever. And it was a great start. And I have to say, this wool came to me, so it's not like I dyed the wool. But I have to say, it's beautiful wool, and you can see my hooking is all higgledy-piggledy, but it's quite tight. And I wasn't sure really where to place stuff, but I still feel like I did okay with the way that the colors land. I feel like it has a bit of a color plan, and there are pops in weird places, and it has a bit of an impressionist feel to it, and that is a style that I like and try to copy. So I feel like it's still quite me, and the hooking style is still very me, but it is the very first project. So I'm going to show you the next project. Let's do the old first and last. Oh, thanks, Gail. I'll tell them you said hi. Um, Valerie, happy Friday. Good to see you. Um, Amzi, is that a training piece for the Pro McGowan classes, or just in general? I'm sorry, I turned on the other camera and there was nothing there. Do you recognize this, or is it just typically what they do, give you a leaf or something like that? And I can't remember how many colors there were, but you can see like this color is modeled. So this came in the kit that was modeled. And then some of these look solid. So I can't picture what the kit looks like anymore. It's been a long time. And you can see I left some little holidays. There's some little gaps that are, um, pretty hollow looking. But I guess when I took it off the frame, I think when I took it off the frame, there weren't any more strips. So I probably packed it as much as I was supposed to pack it, and I think there were no more, and that's what made me stop. Um, so yeah, I don't remember it. I don't remember it that well. But my point is, I'm not sure that my style is a lot different than it was back then. Yes, just a fall leaf pattern, long time ago. Oh, interesting. It is great because it's a simple shape. It's a motif that everyone recognizes. I guess in terms of like realism, you find realism versus stylization. You find your niche pretty quickly, what you naturally would go towards, right? Before you start experimenting and training and learning new ways, more ways, not necessarily for the sake of it, but just more ways. Um, so this is what I ended up with. This is what I finished yesterday. So I got to tell you, there's a problem here. Now we'll get to the problem in a second. So photograph is not super good. I haven't colored. I haven't done anything with color yet. So this is a Jane Austen piece that I did for this issue of Magpie Times, and it's a Jane Austen quote that says, I think this is from Mansfield Park, but indeed, I would rather have nothing but, and you can see I forgot to hook the A on the T. So it says te. I have nothing but te. So that will have an A on it. I didn't realize until I put it into the slideshow that I forgot to hook the A. Wow, right? So I will do that when I get back home. But this is a difficult piece to photograph, so I'm going to have to fool with the layers of this. A piece with this much text, the text doesn't flow well. But I love this piece, and the three women are in a teacup, right, on the sea of blue pantyhose, and yeah, I think the sea is mostly pantyhose. The mixed colors are thick pieces of wool that I ripped, but the rest of it is pantyhose that I dyed blue in lots of different shades. The teacup is stretch velvet, so it's the synthetic velvet, and the sky is all velvet. But the sky is, I think, four different colors of black, like the purple black, the blue black, the green black, and the black black. So it has a bit of a marbly effect, right? It's not a flat background. It has a bit more energy to it. The main thing that I loved about this piece is that the girls' dresses, right, the apron, the skirt, and bodice part of their dresses is paisley. It's three different paisleys: the brownish one, the reddish kind of tomato one, and then the dark and red one. And the rest of their garments, the sleeves, all of the sleeves, the cuffs, the shoulder, the puffs, all that, that's all pantyhose that has been dyed. And their hair is super, 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 about a number 10 cut, really wide wool, variegated, colorful wool. So it was a tricky piece to, and then there's a little motif on the teacup that is a little country manor. And that was all hooked in pantyhose as well, because I needed it tiny, tiny, tiny. So color-wise, this is going to be hard to adjust. I have to, don't let me forget to put the A in. I'm so afraid I'm going to forget to put the A in, because that would be exactly the kind of thing I would do. This piece, April, is not that big. It's probably about, I'm holding my hands out right now. It's probably about 14 or 15 inches wide, largest size. So it's not that big. I would have, if I had more time, I would have done it much larger. But I did 3 pieces this week on top of everything else for Magpie. One is one of the small fluffies, this one, and then the larger purple one that I started in a video. Skipjack Sprout. Oh, good to see you. Welcome. As someone who is getting ready to start their first project, this is very inspiring. Good. Make sure you ask questions, shout out questions anytime. This is the perfect show for you. And, at the end of the day, it might be that your first piece, any piece that you do, you can't just get this je ne sais quoi, right? How do you say it? It doesn't have a translation. You can't define it, right? Some pieces that you make, in many ways, this one for me, like they feed into that moment. Whether it's like, you know how sometimes you're just you tap into this vein of creativity or positive energy, and everything around you is golden, right? Nothing is wrong, even if it is. Everything just seems like it fits. Things are dovetailing. Life is going well. You like the book cassette you're listening to, or the book that's on your bedside table. Your shirt looks better. Your pants zip up good. The drive was easy. You got mostly green lights. Things are times like that. Things just go well. And sometimes you work on projects during these golden times, right? Which can't, according to Robert Frost and my experience personally, they can't last, right? So you enjoy them while they're there. But sometimes you do a piece in that great groove, the golden groove. And when you do, whether or not it's technically great, um, we often tend to love those pieces because of everything that it represents and all of the associations that are built into that piece. So that's something to think about when you start your piece. Try to just enjoy doing it, and not just your first piece. Everybody with every piece, try to enjoy doing it and remember why you love this hobby in the first place, right? When you fixate too much on perfection, or oh Christ, I'm about to run out of this, what am I going to do? I'm never going to find this color, don't have the energy to dye, don't feel like buying anything else. You get into these bad places and these moods, right? And that doesn't help anything. Just try to remind yourself, whether it's your first piece or your literally thousandth piece, that it's supposed to be fun, right? And it's supposed to be full of you, right? That's supposed to be you. You're hooking according to your taste, your favorite color palette, what you like. Make it the way that you like it, and don't think too much about what we like, right? And the more you can adhere to that philosophy, in my opinion, the more artful your piece will be. And if you are a more technical hooker, you're going to be looking for more rules. You're going to be looking at other people's finished pieces for technical tips and tricks and help. And that's absolutely what everybody does too. How much you do that will depend on how original you want your work to be, how pantsy, meaning seat of the pantsy, you want your stuff to be. But just remember, there really are no rules. So just as soon as you get into it, if it's working, keep going. If it's not working, pull some stuff out, try again, see how it goes. Ask tons and tons of questions, right? The more questions you ask, the more pratfalls we can save you from, right? Because there's a lot of people here with experience. Hard to get letters in small places. It's really hard to get letters in small places. And these letters I hooked with really wide wool. Like this is wool that I ripped, right? It wasn't even cut, it was ripped. Really, really hard. I just couldn't figure out with a quote this large how to lay the words out. I just couldn't get them to lay out. So they are awkward, and I know that they're awkward, but I still love the quote. I love the piece, right? This refers to the Jane Austen segment I did between Christmas and New Year's last year, and I love the piece. I really love the piece. I don't always love my pieces, but this one, imperfect though it is, I love the languid feel of the women in the teacup boat. I love the sort of perilous danger that's implied. I love the second little boat that's in the water that I still, in my own mind, don't know what that's a metaphor for, what that second little boat symbolizes. But I looked at it and thought about it while I was hooking it, and I still don't know the answer. So I love this piece. I love this piece. Good. A lot of hooking, Amzi says. Amzi is super, super pro. Is common sense. It's common sense and it's problem solving. And, I always say it's also confidence. It's definitely problem solving, right? It's the same thing. Confidence, the more you second guess yourself with everything, the more sort of negative, right? And stressful the work is. If the more confident you become, and confidence is sometimes accrued through experience, right? In a little bit of time, if you can come out of the gate feeling pretty confident and thinking, I think I got this, right? I don't think that this is rocket surgery. I think I got it. That if you can come out of it with that mindset, or at least talk yourself into that mindset, I think you'll be in a good place to start and just make good decisions, as Amzi says, as you go along. because it is common sense. If something's not working, if your strip is too wide, you just cut it in half, right? If it's not wide enough, maybe put 2 or 3 together and hook a much, a triple loop. Um, Basic fixes as you go along are really going to help. Oops, teacup. Barbara says, I love the motif being on the teacup. I like that too. I didn't know if I'd be able to do that, but super English country house, isn't it? With color substitutions, it's like the purple hail and the pink trees. I love it. I'm going to move on, but I love it. And I love hooking with paisley, and it is a hot mess close up. I took some close ups for Magpie Times so you could see the paisley and answer that question for people. Oh, isn't it ratty as all hell while you're hooking it up? Doesn't it make all string salad as you go along, just stringy, 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 string? And it absolutely does. It's a hot mess. But I go in and I cut the long stringy pieces that are really driving me nuts. And the other, the different paisleys can be more or less shreddy, depending on their integrity, their age, their thickness, the way that they're woven, the tightness of the weave, so many different factors. But until you start hooking with them, you really don't know how much the material is going to play you. And if it plays you so much that you can't enjoy it, then just stop using it and find something else to use that also works. But if you can push through with stuff like this, you get beautiful, unique effects with paisley that you cannot get with any other fabric. But it is a rat's nest, right? It is a huge hot mess. And for people who are real persnickety, it is frustrating to hook with it. But I love it. And I love the mellow kind of antique look that it gives this otherwise fairly contemporary piece. All right, so that is my first and last. Let's see. Let's move on. The ladies are saluting the British Amzi Tea Party. I like that. I like that interpretation. I like that. I bought that tea recently. It's called Bohea, Bohea. It's the actual flavor of tea that was dumped into the Boston Harbor for the tea party. It tastes to me exactly like Lapsang Souchong, which is my favorite. But yeah, that's a great reference. That's funny. Carol Palat, you are next. This was a great series of photos you sent me. So you wrote, let me see. Here is my first rug and my last finished rug, as well as the one that I'm currently working on. So Carol writes, the first was when I was new and I had very little information about hooking. No one told me what I couldn't do, so I was fearless. I found this little jar / bowl at an antique store and I used it as the inspiration. Let me show you that. I should have showed you that first. Sorry. As the inspiration, I drew the design myself, chose my own colors and wool, etc., and I just did it. So this is a great way to do it, right? This tiny little cup. I'm just going to have a quick sneaky sippy. Hold on. This little cup is a great inspiration. Checkerboards always remind me of Mackenzie Childs. I love that brand. I love a checkerboard. Brings me right back to the 80s, and then from there makes me think of the 1920s, right? Because checkerboards have come in and out of fashion so many times. I think at this point they are now cemented in our sort of decorative library and associated with country stuff, right? Anything country can go checkerboard. But through history, checkerboards have been used in very grand places too. Checkerboard is a great motif to hook with because you've got all straight lines, right? It's sometimes the swirly, curvy, diagonal lines that can be problematic. Straight lines, you can really pick up some speed. So this was a great idea for a piece, using the two plump little flowers, right? Just like the cup. Red flowers kind of interlaced, like locking into each other. Very sweet, like flower friends. Not fooling around with stems or where they're attached or tops and bottoms. Just laying out the two flowers and then creating a border that shows a lot of artistic common sense. So in other words, Carol laid out the two flowers, and then there's the background, and then she put a border before the checkerboard border, right? Because there's the background, which is white. There's the inner border, which is the checkerboard with the green outlining. Then there is another border, which is the red border. Then there's the final border. The outer border is black. And I think there's even one line of sort of variegated or color changing wool between the red and the black. So quite a lot going on here with borders. It's a heavy border, right? It's elaborate. It's been built up But it's very cleverly done because the red border is pulling our eye out from the center. The green outlining in the black and white checkerboard is the same green as those little leaves. Those little leaves are almost for me functioning as text, right? It's almost like little quotation marks, like they're talking to each other, like little speech bubbles. The little leaves for me have a lot of energy. They're a more modern take on composition that would have big leaves or scrolls on the border, right? Much more contemporary, but still rather timeless, right? Very sweet, very petite leaves in contrast to the flowers. It's just very different balance than we normally see. And Carol didn't know that. She didn't know much about it. She was going into it kind of blind and figuring it out as she went along. I do too, Barbara. I like how they're not attached to the flowers. It gives real energy to this piece, right? They're just kind of dancing off on their own. It's a beautiful piece. A lot of it is very stable, right? The checkerboard is stable, the heavy flowers are very stable, and then the leaves are kind of dancing in the corners, and it does create interest and some great energy. The leaves have a very blue-green cast to them, which is exciting because the red is a true primary kind of a red, right? It's not really leaning toward orange or tomato. If anything, it's leaning a hair toward blue. It's a very sort of middle of the road red, and it's nice having those funny green leaves. Sorry, they're very different color, very crisp color, and the veins in them are worked really elaborately. That's where we're seeing the most detail on this piece is the little veins of the little flowers. So what a great idea, and what a great example of how you just do it. You just lay it out and do it. And if you lay 2 flowers onto a backing and then stand back and look at it, you're going to think to yourself, this ain't going to be that interesting, is it? This is not going to be the next great work of art. But you see how once you start building and building and building and adding to it, it does become a great work of art, right? You just keep building it, adding borders, adding things, adding colors, changing outlining, adding little details, and you realize that you are compounding color, shapes, right? In this case, a lot of sort of geometry, but in the middle, there's this great organic pair of these flowers, these friend flowers. It's a sweet piece. It's a happy piece. It's got super limited colors, right? Because we don't consider black and white to be colors. So we're just talking about 2 opposite colors, 2 opposite on the color wheel colors, red and green. And they are working overtime because this reads as a very colorful piece. How is that possible? I don't know. Carol did it. You have to ask her. But it is a very cheerful piece, isn't it? It's very cheerful. It packs a punch. It's got really strong lines, right? Really strong composition happening. And it's not a boring piece. So very well done for a first piece. I mean, very well done, period. But for a first piece, this is an out of the park kind of a piece. I think that's exceptional. And that's that little inspiration bowl. This is the piece that she'd finished most recently. So she said, this last piece was the rug that I made with Jane Brocius in her class at the last ATHA biennial. And Carol says, my extended time spent in southern Utah and seeing road runners in my path every day steered me into her class, as well as her expertise in choosing color value in her worms. She is really excellent, isn't she? Her colors are just, she is such an extraordinary colorist, right? Of our current stable of like rug hooking teachers and artists, she is a real standout in the color world. She does magical things with mixing colors, and yeah, I would want to take a class with her too. So this is Roadrunner, and looking so good. It's so sweet. Such great character to Roadrunner. He's not in a hurry, is he? You know, ironically, he's not in a hurry. I love the impressionist feel to this piece. I love the splotches of color. I love the ground and the cactus and the cactus flowers. I love the shape of the Roadrunner against the shape of that distant mountain, right? Kind of frames him out. I love those warm ochre yellow colors alongside those slate grays and blues. I love the muddy, mossy, drab greens with those beautiful, more sunshiny yellow colors and orange colors, right? And in the corner of this blue sky, that's a great sort of Van Gogh blue sky, is this carefully hooked, right? Great directional hooking, that quarter circle of sun, right? The rays coming down in these layers or shelves of yellow color. It's such a beautifully designed piece. The dark light, dull bright is very pronounced here. The patches on the Roadrunner's body, just the expression, right? The big beak, the head held high. He seems like he is purposeful, but not rushing. There's a lot of character to his. I have not seen a Roadrunner walk, and maybe they do walk like this. It seems like a bit of a Sunday walk to me. It's an absolutely excellent character piece. Really, really beautiful. So this is the most recent piece. And this is the current piece that Carol is working on. And of this piece, she says, my current piece is one where I'm using a picture from a Jacques Pepin cookbook as an inspiration. This is for a personal single-use rug, and I worked with the publisher for permission to use this design. We know, Carol. You didn't have to say that. We know that you don't do naughty stuff. Don't show it if you think it'll create copyright chaos. No, it's not creating copyright chaos. You're not selling this pattern. You're showing it to us here. I'm not going to start with the copyright stuff because it always turns into a big thing. But no, I'm guessing that this is going up on the wall, and you have the okay for it anyway, which is more than most people would do. Absolutely beautiful. It is a great illustration piece, right? There is such a good era of cookbook. It's like the mid-century, isn't it? Where illustrations were just fantastic in cookbooks. Funny that it's like an item of food, right? The chicken, but also so beautiful and very impressionistic. The coloring around the grass and even the motion of the feathers. This is a big feathery bird. Yeah, he's big, right? Some chickens and roosters and stuff are kind of compact and they have a nice shape. This one is like the hot mess version of a chicken or rooster. I guess it's a rooster. But yeah, I've seen these big fluffy ones that have crazy feathers. It looks like they stuck their wing in an electrical socket and just zap. Absolutely beautiful. The hooking is stunning. I'd be curious to see what the original piece looked like. Not that this piece relies on the information in the original artwork, but I think it's brilliant the way that you're tackling the color changes in the grass and in front of the bird, in colors that come up as changes in the front of the body of the bird, the substitutions of whites for yellows, right? Really popping the yellow on his face. Maybe he does have a lot of really yellow feathers. I know some birds, as well as human people with white hair, sometimes it has more of a yellow cast. It's always interesting to see what shade. There's a lot of interest happening here. So make sure that you send us the next photos of this and definitely the finished piece of this, because it's also an action shot, right? So there's so much motion in here. But the ground looks so difficult to me. It's so there's so many color changes. It seems like it would be so difficult to choose where to add another little pop of color. But you are killing it. I mean, this looks absolutely phenomenal. I also like the substitutions of blues for blacks and grays on the bird. It's really, this is an amazing piece. So just keep us posted on this, Carol. So Gail says, love the rooster. Karen says, Gail says, is the Roadrunner a real thing? I thought, yeah, oh no, Gail, they are a real thing. They're crazy looking birds, but I spent a lot of time in Utah. And if I saw one, I didn't realize that's what it was. I expect that they're big, but it could be that they're small. Like, are they more like the size of a woodpecker or something like that? Because it looked a little bit like a woodpecker. They are for real, Diane says. Yeah, I'd love to see one now. That's one of the things I always pick up my phone after we have our live shows, just to follow up on some of the stuff that we talked about. Melissa, good morning. You wrote this yesterday morning. Good morning to you too. Attached, please find 2 of my photos for then and now. The little chair pad of the little brown house has to be about 24 years old. It was my second rug that I drew out from a picture I saw in a rug hooking book I found at my local library. So let's look at this one first before we look at the next one. I love the chair pad, and I love that you're still using it. It is a super primitive happy house, and now you have a super primitive happy house, right? That the salt box style house. This is such a great primitive. It's such a great piece in general. This is the kind of traditional design that we see a lot in rug hooking, and there's a good reason for that. These kinds of motifs are eternal, right? Because they're not only pleasing to look at in this moment, they are sort of a bridge to the past, and they remind us of other pieces of folk art, or maybe specifically rugs that we've seen. If you are a lover of old houses, it brings you to different towns and places where you've seen old houses, and you love them and you remember them. And then this is here's one. It's a great reminder. I love what you've done in this piece with the big fat white loops at the bottom. You did a patterned walkway with the same material as the smoke coming out of the roof, and it must have been some kind of tight check that was mostly gray but a little bit of white or light gray. You did a great job hooking that, because it looks like it could have given you a little bit of trouble. These kinds of materials always do. You use that, the patterned color that is on the roof and the patterned color that is in the background. And I really love, there's a few things that you did that I really love. I love the path leading to the door and the red door, right? Very striking. The red brick chimney, very striking. I love the windows being on the lower floor like eyes, right? It's like when they talk about the eye sash houses, that like you see the sash and then the two eyes are positioned right above or right below. It reminds me of that style of house, which is this era of house. You did a good job placing the horizon line, which is the white line, right in the middle. But then you made it interesting by bringing that kind of blue-green tree, which is the really large tree, very heavy down on the bottom right. And that blue-green tree overwrites the black border. And I think that's smart because it breaks our illusion of looking in at a pretty picture, right? It breaks the border. In other words, breaks the fourth wall, right? So it creates some upset, and it does give you the impression that the pieces may be bigger than it is, or that there's more of a story happening than we can see. So you have that blue tree way up front, and then you have two other trees that are perfectly positioned. You have one of them before the white horizon line and one of them on top of it in the distance behind the house. So that creates great impact, great shadow in both of those places. And for such a small piece with simple lines, you have managed to create, with just a horizon line and the placement of three trees, you've managed to attain in a very folky piece a sense of perspective, right, and proportion. So that's interesting because that's hard to do with simple pieces. But you are clever and you have a great art background, so you would know how to do that. Our eye just looks at it and says, well, these trees, I'm going to guess, because they're the same shape, that they are the same kind, and I'm going to guess that they are probably the same size. And then your eye can really clock the house and appreciate what size it is and how much of the landscape it's taking up. It's very charming. The outlining is very charming. I also love the daring use of a really busy patterned woven in the background for the sky, because you didn't go for black for night and you didn't go for a daytime bright color. Sorry for the yawn. What is wrong with me? Here, let me have another sip of wine here. Come on, Mama. Just busy days. That was a bold choice. I like that it's brown because it keeps me in that primitive place, right? It keeps me in that conversation about folk art. In folk art, you can't have too much brown, right? You really can't. Whether you were talking about fiber art or painting or furniture, you just can't have too much brown. It is the color, right, of the genre. And you have used that in the house, the roof, and the sky, but your clever outlining has made it possible to distinguish between all of the shapes in this piece. It is a really good first piece, right? Again, I don't mean it's only a good first piece. It's a good piece. But when you do a piece like that early on, you know that things are good, right? You know that you can only lean in and enjoy this craft more and more as time goes on, because it works for you. This is the piece you're working on now, and you say the now image is the now image is from just a little over 2 weeks ago. I call it a candle mat or a mini tree skirt. Yep, for a mini. Oh God, what is wrong with me? I'm sorry, I'm yawning like a demon. Um, if you have a mini tree, you know how people have the little table trees and stuff? Well, sometimes they need a little skirt or a little rug to stand on. This is the perfect size for that. Melissa, you're working on burlap, aren't you? I love how you work on the hoop. This is the stepped hoop, right? Like the Morgan hoop that's like a stand. And then you're working into burlap. I love it how you always work in this thrifty way, right? You're always looking for recycled materials and repurposed stuff. This has a great either, um, what's the word? Come on. Um, Mandala, that's the word. Or Teveve. Remember when we did the segment on Teveve? The Hawaiian art quilts that are designed as quarters, right? It's one square and you make it into quarters like you're going to do a paper cut. It reminds me of one of those styles of composition. Time, you know what? I think you're right. Time change fatigue. I absolutely think you're right because I'm waking up at a stupid hour every day, much earlier than usual. And then it gets dark at 4 and I feel like it's 10, right? My brain is just having trouble pacing myself, I guess. Melissa, this is such a beautiful piece, and I can see that you were working. I love the thing in quarters, right? Because it gives it such a feeling of being able to be approached from any side, not just top or bottom. It's not just a two-way design; it's a four-way design. No matter where you're coming at this, if it's on the table and it's holding a candle or a little tree, or whatever, no matter how you come at it, you're gonna see the bear face up, right? It's a great design. It's a fun design. You've got great heavy silhouettes for those bears in there. A little bit here and there, a little bit of a lighter color, which is, I love how you do this sort of thing asymmetrically and not matchy match, right? I love how you don't do matchy match. You inset some quillies, which is so clever. They look like little rosebuds in there with little green leaves. It's very, very sweet. In the center, Melissa, is that the chain stitch? Did you chain stitch with a hook that center? That is so tidy and pretty and such a strong center, right? With a circle composition, right? You still need strength. You need unity. You need it for it to be a good composition. You need it to be a strong composition. But when you're working with a circle, you really have to be careful, particularly if it doesn't have a right side up, where the strength is coming from, and in this case, from the center. And that is really an interesting fiber detail, right? It's very, very blingy, very technical, and very well done in the center. And you used a really unusual wool in the background as well. Maybe it was wool or cotton or cotton flannel, but it looks like it was some kind of a checkered shirt or something that was, and it looks like you did some mixing up too. So maybe you ran out of a color and then put in like colors, like more blues, maybe a little bit of yarn, maybe a little bit of orange. But the plaid color that we're seeing seemed to go like blue, gray, brown, orange. And I can picture shirts that would look like that. And, leave it to you, right? It's a great, great color palette using blue, green, gray, orange with spring green and rosy pink, right? Always unexpected with you. Really, really great. And I love how I'm seeing some hooked wool along with that plaid material because it is giving me that thrifty vibe that maybe you ran out, maybe you didn't. Melissa says, yes, the chain stitch, excellent. I used a wool plaid scarf for the background. Great. So it wasn't a shirt, it was a scarf, and there must have been a finite amount of it. And you were able to put in other colors that were similar, but not completely matchy match. Hey, if you love the very technical, very crafted, fine school of rug hooking where everything is perfect, right? And all of the colors match perfectly. There are no anomalies. There are no mistakes. There was no running out of anything. That is one way, right? That's one of a million ways. That is one way. But the original way, right? The 19th century way, the thrifty way, was to hook stuff, little bits here, little bits there, fill in spots with different techniques, different colors, different materials as you went along, right? Like Amzi said earlier, common sense, right? And Melissa, I don't know if you ran out of anything, but I can see that you introduced different materials. So it made me think maybe you did. However, with your pieces, you are always creating added interest and added lines in your backgrounds. So it might be that you added different materials just to pop it in different ways and yeah, just make it more interesting. It's not a solid piece by any means. It really is so super charming. It's a beautiful piece, Melissa. I'm going to move on to the next one. Let me have one more. Let me do some water now. Alrighty. So this is Jessica Troyer's piece. Now we are moving on to Jessica. Jessica says, hello, I loved your idea of sharing our first projects and comparing them with our latest. Here are my two first projects. So this is the first one. This is called Troyer Family. And she says, my design, hooked with wool strips, all gifted by my mother-in-law and sister-in-law, because I had no stash of my own yet. I finished this in March of 2023. That was last year. I will always love this rug. I drew it when I was pregnant with my fourth child, filled with hope and joy. I used velvet for the words and Prati flowers. I didn't know what Prati was yet, but was experimenting. Unfortunately, velvet Prati didn't wear well. I will have to replace them with wool. Yeah, I see, but they do look really pretty. And that's easily done, isn't it? And Melissa says, of your last piece, yes, I did realize I was going to run out of the plaid, so I improvised. Yep, that is the first way. That is, in my mind, the best way. And that is showing common sense. And that is demonstrating confidence, right? So with Jessica's piece, you know, Jessica is working on a book right now. We've been talking a lot about her family and her family journey. And I had not seen this rug before, but she obviously, since the beginning, has been most interested in documenting and illustrating, celebrating her family in her rugs. And she, from the first, and this is her first one, designed her own rug. So if you know Jessica's work, you know there is so much artistry hardwired, right? It's just innate talent. Carol says, Diana, if you look up the Jacques Pepin cookbook, Porte and Legumes, is that Poultry and Legumes? You will see some of his artwork. He does fantastic. I'm gonna look him up as soon as I'm done. You know, I feel like I have one because that style, but I'm never gonna find it. That style like just brought me back. I'm gonna do that, Carol. When the episode is over, I'm gonna look on eBay and see if I can find some of those and maybe snap some up. Because I love looking at cookbooks, but I love looking at illustrated cookbooks. Carol, what kind of era is he? Is he like 1960s, 1970s kind of thing? I wonder. Thank you so much, Carol. Now I'm excited to look that up. So, you know, with Jessica telling her family story and about to have her fourth child, this is where her passion lies. Like right, she's right here. Always thinking about the family, her children, the extended family, and she's always doing personal storytelling and mythology through original rug design, and she did it with her first rug too. So you can see, and I knew this from talking to her and working with her on her book project. I knew that it was her mother-in-law who was the hooker and who gave her supplies and sort of turned her on to it. But I mean, you don't really expect someone to do a piece like this as their first project. It's just incredible. So she's done quite a few things here that are magic. And I have to say, let's talk about them. And then I'm going to give you my biggest takeaway. So she was gifted a lot of these materials. Did you notice that she is doing this very soft lilac outline around the silhouetted figures? I think that is brilliant because the lilac is so different than the white in the sort of patterned wool that makes up that background fabric, right? It's a really interesting, probably window pane plaid or check. It's not a tight check, is it? Because we're seeing so much white, right? And we know that it's hooking up to be maybe 4 or 5 times smaller than the fabric itself when it's all scrunched and looped up. And the whites are still not falling exactly on top of each other. It's a really interesting background material. I'd be curious to see what it looked like. But it is creating a lot of energy, a lot of motion. And she had the sense with this first piece to outline the silhouetted figures, right? Put a little distance and a little safety between the silhouetted figures, which she probably knew were also not destined to be solid, right? She made them very busy with sort of monochromatic color plans, but still lots of changes in color. It's very interesting because where they join hands is interesting. We've got the tiny figure of the smallest babe that is in the darkest material on mom's shoulder, right? That's Jessica, in the mixed browns, right? All the cocos and chocolates and the dark, dark, dark browns. And then where that little brown arm meets the next child's hand, it goes the brown to blue, and then it goes blue to copper, and then it goes the copper to the sort of purpley black, and then the purpley black back to that sort of blueberry blue. And those joins where those colors meet each other almost look like a rainbow. It's so smart. It's so smart. The position of the characters, the way that the characters are drawn, they're in silhouette. They have potential to be really dull. They aren't, right? The directional hooking and stuff that she put into it, the mom's hair kind of coming down like a tent on the sides of her head, the way that the smallest babe on the shoulder, the arm is reaching back as they do, right? They're so daring as they're riding with mom. And the patterning on the dress, right? That echo fill that goes around, 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 around until it goes right tight into the center and you can't get any more loops in. The very vertical hooking. Oh, that book is from 2015. He sells his paintings to get money for his foundation. Interesting. Interesting. Oh, I'm not going to forget Carol. I'm so excited about that. Thank you. Everything about this piece really strikes me as brilliant. And the man's gesture, too, right? One arm kind of leaning in toward the family. His body is slightly turned in toward the family. The central child, the probably oldest child, very stout, very proud, standing tall. And the two younger ones, a little more sort of whimsical. The female character almost dancing, right? There's so much personality in these silhouettes. How did she do it? And here she is experimenting with Prati. And yes, the velvet would struggle because the pile on the velvet is likely to fall off or lint away. Velvet is not durable, but you do see old millinery flowers on hats. Sometimes they're really worn, indented and mashed up, but they still have, no matter how much the velvet pile gets crushed and threadbare, they do have this wonderful quality, this antique quality to them. Looking at a piece of velvet. Teddy, I'm recording a show. I like the way also that the name is kind of embedded, Troyer. So it's not in your face. What's in your face is the word family. Troyer is kind of, it sits back, right? And I know she knows that because she knows how to use tonal value. The important word is family, right? It's not using their name. It's saying family, right? That's what this rug is about. And she's used the blue that she used for Troyer along with the black to give it a bit of a softness, a little bit of extra color. It's a very weirdly complicated piece, and it's brilliant. And I'll say one of the brilliant things, love how the letters connect the family figures. Yep, I didn't even notice that. You're right. You're right, Barbara. They're standing on the letters, right? The letters are part of the composition. The L goes right through the side of the dress on the little girl. It looks like she almost has a little heart on the side of her dress. It's absolutely brilliant. It's brilliant in its simplicity because it is so hard to be simple, isn't it? I always say this because it's true. Doing something very, very complicated and busy that includes the kitchen sink, that you can do. You just have to fit it together, right? You have to do the Tetris and fit it all together. And once it's all together, it's typically overwhelmingly grand. It's busy, it's grand. How do they do that? But doing something with just a few bare lines is very difficult. Design-wise, it's the hardest thing that you could ask of yourself. Now, the thing about Jessica that I feel I have to mention because she's such a standout person. Hold on one second. I'm extra thirsty. I'm sorry. Tell me if you can hear Teddy. I can hear Teddy. If you can hear Teddy, please let me know. He doesn't realize how loud his mouth is. The thing about Jessica that I find so interesting is, I feel so grateful that I'm working so closely with her on this book project too, and that she trusts my input as she shapes this and as she evolves this book, because it is extraordinary. But the thing about her is she is so talented, and she's very spiritual, and I really feel like this is like, in whatever words you want to use, magical or spiritual or religious words, she was born to do this craft. Like, she really, it stands out. And when we talk about stuff she's working on, like here, she's like, "Oh, I didn't know that it was called Prati, but I was just, pulling the leaves through to make this effect." And yeah, now I know it's called Prati. She does this all the time, right? Like, we're talking in the Writers Club thing, and she'll say like, "Yeah, I did this technique where, because she started last year. I did this technique where I pulled up a lot of loops and I made it really dense, and it was like packed, and then I took, and it was like a little bit high, where I'm going with this. And then I took some scissors and I cut it so I had like a three-dimensional look. And I'm like, Jessica, you were doing Waldebrow. And she's like, what? And I'm like, it's like, it's a technique. It's Waldebrow. It's like, people like take classes in this, people study this. It's hard. It's hard to do. It's a great bag of tricks things to have, but it's hard to do. You were just doing it, and you didn't know what the name for it was until I said, you were doing Waldebrow. She does this. She does this from time to time. It's like she'll just start doing another technique, and you say, you were doing this. That's directional hooking, right? In a nutshell, you just did a great example of that. So she's actually practicing and learning and teaching herself how to do things faster than anyone can keep up with her and say, okay, here's another technique, faster than anyone can teach her, or that she can absorb like all of the other ways and techniques that have happened around her and before her. She's hooking faster than that, and she's figuring it out faster than she can collect data or absorb more information about the art of rug hooking, right? I just think it's incredibly interesting when she talks, and we have these candid conversations, and I'm like, oh, you taught yourself that. She's kind of like as if she were placed at, in the 1860s and given the first hook with a bent nail in it, and she just started weirdly just doing it, just hooking, and then she figured everything else out on this weird accelerated timeline, and she's doing everything have you ever read that book by, what's his name, Nathan, Robert Nathan, I think it's Robert Nathan, A Portrait of Jenny. It's a heartbreaking book. It's also a musical that I love that was never staged, but the music is beautiful, about this woman who, I have not read it for years, but she meets a man, I think, in the park, and she's beautiful and she's young, and he sees her like a few days or a week later, and she looks older, and curiously older, and then he meets her again and again, and she's obviously aging. It's a magical like story, right? It's an enchanted story. It's like a Wrinkle in Time kind of Brigadoon thing where she is living in another place, and her timeline is not the same, and she is aging hugely in between visits of theirs that are just a day or days apart, and it's a heartbreaking love story. But it makes me feel like this is what Jessica has been doing all along, right? She's like this eternal force, and I'm moving slow, and she's moving from 1860 to 2024 in the course of 2 years, right? And she's done all of the techniques. It's incredible. She really is incredible. So this is her first piece. Remember, she's going to show us her two first pieces and then her two current pieces. All right, let's see. Oh, good. Thank you. I'm glad that you can't hear him, because sometimes he gets a bit bombastic. Thanks, Jenny. Oh, thanks, Carol. I'm going to take a picture. I'm going to just take a quick picture of these comments because I don't want to forget. I'm taking a picture of our thread over here. My memory is good, but Carol's giving me some good technical stuff. I want to look that up exactly. So this is the second piece called Dinosaur Footsteps. And Jessica says, this is my second rug hooked in April of 2023, a gift for my dinosaur enthusiast 5-year-old. I drew a life-size 33-inch T-Rex footprint. Holy mackerel! T-Rex footprint looking at one of his many books, and then traced my children's feet. The kids love to stand on it to see how much they've grown. It is mostly wool strips, except for the T-Rex footprint, which is sparkly polyester I found at a thrift store and cut with scissors. The boys love the sparkle and how soft and squishy it feels. From these, so let me look at this, and then I'm going to read the next part. So the foot itself is 33 inches, right? So this rug is like more than a yard long, wide. I'm sorry, absolutely incredible. And we've got the 4 children, their little footprints around the edges. What a lot of fun! What a brilliant idea, right? This is just so. This is educational. This is fun. I mean, I get a huge kick out of seeing like life-size dinosaur footprints at museums, and Jessica's got one like in the house for the kids. This is so smart. I love the sparkly wool too. It's so charming. It's so smart. It's perfect for kids. You can see them loving this. There's the added sort of element of having the children's feet measured onto it is precious. I love that sort of blue sprig border. It's really simple, right? It's simple, it's fragile. It's the opposite of this big, heavy, giant footprint, right? It adds great contrast. And in the corner, these beautiful little rainbows, right? 4 little rainbows, 4 sweet children filled with light and brightness and color, and 4 little rainbows in the corner. It's just an absolutely perfect piece. And here the kids are on it, right? Standing with their feet on it. 2 of the 4. I think it's just great. And you see the family rug right next to it, right? That was the one that we just looked at. So you're seeing that one side by side. Absolutely beautiful. So this must have been right before Jessica turned up the edges and stitched them under, right? Because it's, I think, actually on the floor. So let me come back to you before we come here. And let me read you the next part. She said, of the 2 projects we just looked at, she said, from these projects, I can see elements of my style emerging. I enjoy drawing my own patterns, experimenting with different materials and techniques, and finding inspiration in my family. Isn't that clarity? Like really, she has built-in confidence with stuff like this, right? She hasn't thought, like Carol said, I didn't know how to do it, so I just did it, right? She has this kind of built-in confidence, and I think that's very important. Common sense. She knows what she means to do. She knows that her biggest sort of motivator and inspiration is her family, right? So she immediately goes there for her inspiration. She draws something that makes sense, fits into what the family likes at that moment, how the kids are growing, what ages they're at, what they're into. And then as she goes from rug to rug, right? Her style, she keeps elements of her style. She keeps the things that she likes the most. And often those things are technical things. Well, I liked cooking with this, but not this, right? Or I like cooking with lots of different materials, or I don't. I like cooking with yarn as opposed to wool or velvet or stretch polyester that sparkles, right? She's figuring these things out through practice. So it's more, you can be technically great coming out of the gate, and you can be a fantastic creative designer coming right out of the gate, and you can be both, right? Or you can be neither and still really love this craft. But it's great to know what you mean to do, right? Because it's when you don't know what you mean to do that it's like, you get all these weird get out of jail free cards. Well, I don't really know what I'm doing, so I'm not going to finish this project because I don't know how to do the next part because I don't know what I'm doing, and I don't know if I should use white or gray, so I'm just going to like stop because I wasn't meant to do this, and I don't know what I'm doing, right? If that's the way you go into it, you're definitely not going to succeed. But if you go into it with a little bit of confidence and think, I'll figure it out, gray, white, who cares, right? I'm in 100 years, it ain't going to matter, is it? So she goes into all of her projects with this kind of mindset. She knows what she's interested in, and it's illustrating her family. So that's a good start, right? She's managed to focus her attention and her time and thought on things that have to do with her family. She can eliminate, the 9 million and other subjects out there that you could attack in a rug, and So she already knows what she means to do. So this is going to expedite the process, right? She's on the fast track because she's already got a really clear idea of what she wants to do. So in these early examples, she's experimenting with a lot of different materials. She's drawing her own patterns, which you can or can't depending on what you feel like doing. Um, and she says she's learning a lot and getting a lot out of projects as she goes along. And there's been quite a few in between, right? We're keeping some of them kind of under wraps because she's got this book project that she's working on. So she's going to show us her latest two projects, right? So it's only been 2 years, but if you've been following in our Facebook group, which is Rug Cooking and Punch Needle Club, she has done an extraordinary amount of rugs in 1 year. Um, Incredible. So let's come back over here. And so this is the one she just finished. So this is the second to last, and this one is called My Lighthouse. Um, the next two are going to be my Lighthouse and My Cross, and they're both her designs. This one is 8, and they're both the same size, 18 by 28, hooked with t-shirt yarn. All of the t-shirts are my mother's, who recently passed. She was an active volunteer for her church's Mission Week every year. She pulled weeds, painted rooms, visited shut-ins, and delivered cookies to first responders. All church volunteers wore the same color shirt, which changed every year. I plan to donate them, meaning these two rugs, to our church auction to raise money for the next Mission Week. The auction is in 2 weekends, so I need to finish them soon. My experiment for these was including the scripture from the back of the t-shirt, attaching it with double-sided fusible interfacing, and appliquing around the edges. It worked great with a little practice. So, in other words, and I thank God I knew the story the other day because I was like bawling when we were on Zoom the other day. So, in other words, I'm sure you caught this, but her mom used to do this mission week at our church every year. And just like all volunteer things, you typically get a new shirt every year. So her mom had, when she passed, left this collection of shirts from all of these mission weeks. And Jessica said Mission Week was like her favorite week of the year. So she kept these shirts. And now Jessica is using these shirts. And on the back of the shirt, there was a line of scripture for each year. It had a different shirt, different scripture. This one says, in the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. Matthew 5:16. So this was on the back of the shirt. She didn't hook these letters, right? She cut the back of the shirt out like this. She did fusible interfacing, which means it stuck on both sides, and she appliqued it on. She's put a little bit of padding under it so that it meets the surface of the loops and it's not recessed and sitting lower. So it does meet the surface of the loops. It's very flush. But this is actually from her mom's back, on the back of that shirt. And the rest of the piece is hooked with the mission t-shirts that she cut up. She didn't cut up the Bible verses. She saved them for rugs, but she cut up the rest of the shirts, and that is what is making this piece, right? So let your light shine. I say that to the kids all the time. Beautiful motif. And this is one of the rugs, obviously, that she's thinking about her mom while she's working on and going through stuff and all of those steps and stages. Absolutely touching, beautiful, meaningful. It's got so much patterning, right? The water, the sky, this little stripies on the lighthouse, and then even the rays, right? The lighthouse rays have that V-shaped pattern like Bargello. It's a highly patterned piece, but it's a simple piece. It's strong, stable, would appeal to lots of different people. I so hope that these rugs do well at the auction. And Barbara says the gray purple sky is wonderful. It is. Isn't that great? Because it is gray, and then she mixed in either purple or navy, but it is definitely reading as purple. I think that's a trick of the eye. I think that's a little bit of impressionism there, because I think they're mostly gray and black shirts, but with that added color, it does lighten it up and make it look like a bit of a magical stripe running through it. Really smart. Amzi says, wow, that t-shirt lighthouse rug is so meaningful. Very awesome. It is. It really is. And this is the next one that she's working on. So this one has the same bit of text on the back. Maybe it is that all of the shirts every year have the same text on the back. This is obviously a red shirt, so this one's different. And this one looks like it will take the form of a cross, and this will be called My Cross. This will also be 18 by 28. And so she has broken it up almost like 19th century geometric. That would be kind of a hit or miss rug or checkerboard rug, but she has carved out the cross, right, to stand alone. And it looks like she's doing some very intricate hooking, right? You see embedded patterns on the cross, almost a Celtic feel, and that text again set in the same way. The candle on top for the light. I don't know what the intention is for the bottom of the cross. I'm guessing it's more patterning. And around the background, right, she is keeping the checkerboard breakdown, but she is doing hit or miss with the blue, the black, the gray shirts, and she's alternating them, much in the style of the historic geometric hooked rugs, right? So this is both a beautiful, meaningful, another t-shirt piece that has the same sort of heartstrings quality as the one before. This one is done in a pattern that's more familiar to rug hookers and very, very different from the last. So beautiful project that she's working on. She just digs in. She just figures it out and digs in. She cuts her edges so close it always makes me nervous, but she never unravels. I don't think Jessica sews the edges. She just goes for it. She just goes for it. She's a great example of like, do you really have to do everything? Can you just get the piece on your lap somehow and just get going? Because she works very pantsy, seat of the pantsy, and she always produces this incredible work. And it's mostly instinctive, right? She doesn't spend a lot. She produces so much so fast. She doesn't spend a lot of time figuring stuff out and watching videos. She just sits down and does it. And when she makes a mistake, she realizes she made a mistake and she figures out how to fix it. Problem solving. So yeah, I mean, it's just, yeah, beautiful, beautiful pieces. Absolutely gorgeous and meaningful. Michelle, you sent a couple of pieces too. Let me find your text. Absolutely adorable. She says, "Howdy, y'all. Here's my little bunny." I can hear her voice saying this. "Here's my little bunny that I started after watching all of you make so many fun rugs here on this channel. I had a hoop, a cross stitch fabric, and a crochet hook with gobs and gobs of fiber. So away I went. Working with Ribbon Candy Hookings patterns has brought a whole other fun storytelling element and creative juice to my making. I only wish, like many others, that I had more time on my hands. Much of this fiber is from our sheep." So she keeps sheep and she uses a lot of the wool from her sheep. She brought some to me, which was such a great gift because that's such a personal thing. But she's got these beautiful browns and grays from animals that she knows and loves, and it makes it that much more special. So Michelle started with this charming silhouette of a rabbit, right? Just the rabbit on backing. Let's see how this works, right? And she's not sure she's got the right materials. She's going to give it a try. She's inspired. She's excited. And she did a very smart thing doing a silhouette, right, with the little bum behind. She knew she had wool straight from her animals that would work great. There's some great color changing here, right? It's not solid. It's really interesting to look at. She had other materials, but she's just figuring out how it goes. And she fills in the bunny shape with the wool from her sheep. She uses the white wool, I'm thinking again from her sheep, to do the little bunny's tail, right? She's got him sitting back on his haunches, and she's outlined the whole thing with this very pretty pink that's got a real springtime vibe to it. The whole thing has a nice springy Easter time vibe. And she's got, it looks like she's stitched, or I'm wondering how she could have pulled it up. She could have hooked all that green around it, like he's sitting on a little patch of soft grass. It could be that she hooked it and she just pulled it up really high and wild, but there is like a spray of soft green grass and all these different colors of green. Look how much green there is, right? Just around the edge of that bunny's little bum. There's so many colors of green, and then she's got a beautiful little springtime flower. I bet that Michelle found it difficult to hook into this material because it sounds like it wasn't the right material. But it looks like she really persevered and she did a beautiful job. She got the silhouette. She's got that nice rose-colored outline. She's got him planted in a nice, soft, safe space. It looks very comfortable and sweet. Green roving. Yes, that is it, Barbara. And then this pretty flower. She did great. And she figured out how to do it. Absolutely beautiful. And the most recent piece was a piece that she did for the Haunted Rug book. So I love this piece. This is a piece that I'm saving for the next Haunted Rug book. So this is a piece that ended up being called Life on the Water Spout. You know, the itsy bitsy spider, Life on the Water Spout. It sounds really dreary, doesn't it? The original name I had for this piece was Fernando's Hideaway. And then I went with Life on the Water Spout because I thought really the life of a spider is quite repetitive, isn't it? Um, but I don't know. I see webs popping up in the weirdest places, and I think, how did they figure out that bugs would go into that corner? Like, how do they know that? I've never seen a bug anywhere near there, but they know. They know. And this is such a charming depiction of what is a really sweet primitive piece that has potential to fail as a design because it's very simple, right? It's just kind of some leaves, like for scale, closing in. I drew the spider based on a pom-pom ornament that I have that I got at a craft fair years ago. It's a spider with long pipe cleaner legs. Um, oh, Goretti, great to see you. And it's just a big fat pom-pom, and he's got googly eyes, like and he's wearing a hat, right? It's an actual thing. It's in the Haunted Rug book, and it's absolutely adorable. But I actually used him as a model, like an actual model. Um, and these are his proportions, and his legs always get tangled and bent because they're pipe cleaners. But it is meant to be a funny, sort of whimsical and comedic piece. It's not obviously not a heavy piece, but it does have potential to look confusing and to not be interesting enough. And I have to say, the way that Melissa has done this is absolutely charming. She's used lots of different materials, lots of different heights. She's added that flourish, right? The sort of Three Musketeers flourish of that black feather, which really fits in well with those leaves and branches of green rising up behind him like fingers, right? Rising up, very similar shape to a feather. Makes a lot of sense to run the feather out into that direction too. In terms of design, it really adds a lot to the piece. It has a very basic border, this piece, kind of like sort of a Greek revival border, very austere, very simple. But yes, April said great colors in this adorable spider piece. It's a great color palette, and that is all Michelle. All Michelle. It's a lot of fun. It's a sweet piece, and you will see this next year. I did lots of different style pieces for the Haunted Rug and in the process of for the Mystic Carpet. And this is one of the simpler ones, but it just goes to show when someone's working on it who has lots of vision for color and shadows and adding extra interest with other details, it can become a really fun and busy piece, right? If you're going to put all that oomph into it, and Michelle put all of that oomph into it and then some. Absolutely love Life on the Water Spout, Michelle, and love you too. It's a beautiful piece. Wendy sent some great pieces as well. Wendy Simon. Let me flip to my next page. Um, Wendy says, hi, Deanna. So some ideas for tonight. She says, this is her first rug from 2018. I bought a bundle of pre-cut wool strips, and I tried to make hexagons on burlap. I like the wonky circles that resulted. The back, now that's interesting, isn't it? Now I'm looking at them. Yeah, it would be hard for a first piece, and I'm guessing this is a smallish piece. It would be hard to get the hexagons to really hold that shape, right? They do want to round out, don't they? They would with this primitive cut and with something this small. Um, that's kind of interesting, isn't it? Background is flannel, and what a mess of black fuzz was left on the floor. Oh, that can happen. Yep, that can happen. But it is a striking piece. It is like a candle mat or a penny rug, right? Circles upon circles, stars upon bars. But in this case, circles upon circles, and really well done. And if it was a mess to work on it, you really can't see that. You can see that there is a thready quality to some of the wool, and that can be tricky, but you do get that with wovens, patterned wovens. You do get that. But you do also get the benefit of having this beautiful sort of pattern with these pieces that are not solid. So that's, pros and cons to everything. But it adds a layer of interest for me to know that these were meant to be hexagons, because you can see how some of them shaped out more square, more oval, top to bottom, side to side. Each one kind of worked out differently, and each one is different. Together, they are really interesting and really visually, it's a lot of impact. Great color palette, interesting and lively to look at. It's a great fiber piece. It's very tactile looking. I want to touch it, you know. We're as rug hookers, I think we love these primitive pieces. It brings us back to our roots. It is not easy to hook any circle parts, right? So it's great to see this come out with more of a folky, organic feel. And I don't mean imperfect, I mean folky, because sometimes the centers are bigger, sometimes they're smaller, sometimes they're the next round is a little bit more of an amoebic, like less shapy, and it all adds interest. For me, this rug is much more interesting than most penny rugs that I see that are perfect circles. Just more interesting. I love this piece. And Barbara says, I love how the centers are all different shapes. Yeah, and I love how some of them are off center, you know. It has a pop art, an antique pop art feel, because we are seeing the repeat of something, but we are seeing variations with each one, right? So that is one of the backbones to pop art. But in this case, we recognize the primitive colors and the primitive penny rug motif. And so it's kind of both. This is a shapeshifter of a rug. It's an interesting first rug, and it's a clear indicator that Wendy is going to be great, really great, and do really different work. We look at Wendy's work a lot because she is the hooker that does so much with plastic shopping bags. This is not one of these examples. This is 2024, and she says, I guess it's fair to say that I'm fickle when using background colors. It's boring for me to stay with one color for very long. Sorry. Well, I guess it is, because she is always doing high difficulty pieces with a lot of color shift. And this is obviously no exception. This is such a beautiful piece. It has a tile feel to it, doesn't it? Because when you look respectively at each square, you can see that if you tipped them, it would be a repeat going all the way around. Have you ever laid down a tile floor or wall? If you have, you know that if you tip the tiles in different ways, different orientations, you get a completely different pattern. You can make something wild. You can make something pretty stagnant repeater. This is more like a picture pattern, right? She has created 6 of something, or depending, it's an optical illusion, 8 of something. It really is stunning. And it's a hit or miss pattern. So, you know, hit or miss patterns are absolutely fabulous for using up your worms. But at the same time, this is, I am so sorry. I keep yawning. This is awful. I'm so, you know, I never do this. I'm a hot mess. One of the things that I love about this is that it's such a controlled hit or miss example. Dark light, dark light, dark light, right? She's not being fussy about the color changes, but she is being fussy about dark light, dark. And that really gives it almost like an printmaking quality, right? Or sort of printmaking meaning you get such fine lines as part of the storytelling. This is a geometric, but it is fluid. It looks really improvisational. It's smart. It's thrifty. It's colorful. It's just gorgeous. Isn't it gorgeous? And it's another reminder for beginners or seasoned hookers alike. You know, if you feel like you've got a lot of stuff laying around and you are thinking, maybe I will do something with a high hit or miss sort of component to it. And maybe you're thinking, oh, it's probably going to be boring. I don't know if I can sit and do it. It's not boring. And like Wendy says herself, she gets bored easily. Doing something like this goes really fast, and it is not boring work. It is, it's very fast, sort of rhythmic, meditative, but fast moving work. And when you change colors this often, just like with knitting or crocheting, it's exciting when you get a color change. And in this case, you get a color change constantly. And it keeps things lively. And it does give you a great, versatile, very universal piece that anybody could really use for any room, right? You can't see someone looking at this and going, oh, that's such a feminine piece, or oh, that should go in the bedroom. No, it's not that kind of a piece. Hit or miss, 100% hit or miss rarely is that kind of a piece. And this has so many light colors in it, it makes me wonder and remember back to some of her past pieces and try to think, oh, maybe that's from this or maybe that's from that. Absolutely beautiful piece. Very exciting to look at. Beautiful technical piece. Colorful, thrifty, all of our favorite things. Oh, I hope I'm not getting sick. Love those, Wendy. Thank you so much. Tara sent these from Canada and didn't send text, so I'm going to run my mouth. These are absolutely beautiful. Amzi says, I did one similar from W. Cushing and used up a lot of scraps. Yet there are so many McGowan patterns that are hit or miss and that are plays on early geometrics. And we know that Pearl McGowan did so much travel, so much research, so much documenting and shoring up of those early patterns that she saw and recorded, that she created patterns out of many of those early hit or miss designs. And certainly this is one of them, possibly inspired by tile patterns, possibly she did a lot of stuff that was like Mediterranean themed. She did a lot of stuff that was Asian themed. But this looks very Mediterranean to me. So beautiful and so different. And these patterns can be bought. You don't have to do it from scratch. This is one that Tara did from scratch for Shoresies. Such a beautiful geometric, and I do love geometrics. It reminds me of Macintosh, right? The Scottish art, 1920s, 1930s era architect, designer, furniture designer, painter, stained glass designer, man of many talents and abilities. It has that stained glass quality, but this irregular geometry is very romantic and it's very Scottish in the way that it looks. It's like a G's bend if it was straight, right? If lines were perfectly straight. This is very unexpected color-wise. The blues I associate with Macintosh style, but and also the roses, but not all of them together. So this is exciting because it's like a mashup. It's like a style that I know. It's color palettes that I know, but all together I don't know this, and that makes it exciting. Dark, light, dull, bright. DLDB. Really, really exciting. I love the few blocks. There's one that's like blue with white dit dots. It almost looks like a Donegal tweed. Very exciting. I'm trying to picture how that happened and how that worked out. But that is so interesting to me. And then there's one, the big chunk of it on the top left is kind of purple and darker purple that looks like a mottled color. There's another blue further down that looks a little bit mottled, but for the most part, these are pretty stable, solid blocks. And they seem to have possibly an antique black or lighter black, lighter gray, or even a brown border. I can't tell if it's gray, brown, or black. It's a strong neutral, and it's not a head-on black. So for me, that's interesting because the outlining is a little bit lighter than I would expect. Certainly lighter than black because black is present. I think that's a really good call. I think that's a really artistic choice. And in terms of color, this piece is incredible. It's got that one little white block in the bottom left, which is just where it should be. It reminds me of stained glass. It reminds me of maybe a floor plan to an enormous, exciting place. It's just beautiful to look at. It's an extraordinary first piece. Now let's look at the most recent piece of Tara, and gorgeous piece. Gorgeous piece. Mounted on what looks like a washboard, right? That says made in Canada. I love it when things are mounted like this. It's so smart and so sweet. Perfect fit. So this is a way more organic feeling piece, right? This is not a geometric, but it does have the same flair, right? The wide sort of primitive cut hooking. This one has a lot more sort of nuancing happening. We're seeing more three-dimensional fluff, different fibers, different materials. Looks like some soft, fluffy yarn, ladder yarn, eyelash yarn, maybe a little bit of velvet. It's very different materials. The tree has that clumpy silhouette or a mossy feel, kind of that mystery moss color. It's hard to tell the difference between that hue of green and the tree trunk, right? So it's a great kind of silhouette driven piece against white, striking, striking. And then in the bottom, there is just a sea, a patchwork of color blips that look like different materials, color upon color upon color. It's very exciting. You can tell it's a small piece because it's mounted to a washboard. It is a beautiful piece to look at. It's striking, it's simple, it's strong. This is a one motif kind of a piece where the tree is right smack in the middle, right? The composition is framing this tree. And the tree gets hooked in. The sky is very stable. There's a little bit of action on the top left, and that is making a good diagonal connection to the ground. But on the ground, man, all bets are off. It's so colorful. It's like a rainbow of prettiness. You know, it's a very, very strong composition. And it's a beautiful, creative, seat of the pants, really organic piece. Very, very boho and very pretty. Elizabeth Bennett. I always do that. Elizabeth Bennett. More craziness. Now, I had not seen these before. I'm getting to know Elizabeth better and better. I love her work, and she is just an awesome person to be around. That goes a long way for me. I just loved meeting her and being near her. She's got a great aura about her. She writes, "Hi there, Deanna. Here are my first and last in case you'd like to use them for the themed video you mentioned on the rug cooking. Have a great day." Okay, so she's not going to tell us about the pieces, but we're going to look at them together. Exceptional start, right? This reminds me of the Woodstock poster. Are you getting that? Are you getting that too? It reminds me of the neck of a guitar with the bird on it. But I'm thinking this is like a pie on the top, right? This is a very simple, really artsy composition that is broken into, it's like a shelf composition, right? Layers or tiers, lower, middle, top. And in the middle, right, the middle is broken because the middle holds the only two motifs that are in the piece, the bird and I think the pie. If I'm wrong, let me know, but I'm thinking like the pie. It reminds me of one of those little pie birds that you put into a pie and it sings when it gets hot, you know what I mean? And the smoke starts to come out of his little beak and he sings a song. It's got a lot of associations for me, and they're all really cheerful. It is a cheerful piece, which is remarkable because it is a fairly dark piece, right? The blue is very inky. The green is strong. It's a great patterned material again with that mossy green color and some reddish maroons and some blacks running through it. It looks like the bird and the highlight on the pie are a soft white yarn, right? So different, experimenting with different materials. And I think the blue is a yarn. Yep, and it looks like the yellow and the green are the parts, and the plaid, right, for the shadows underneath, are the parts that are wool, that are cut wool. So what a great first piece. Definitely experimenting with shapes. This might be an original pattern. It definitely has a still life quality to it. It is really artistic. It's really different. It's very cool. It looks like something that you would see in a gallery. Really, really good first piece. And most recent piece. Right, so again, I'm looking to see if she wrote something about it. This is incredible. So this looks like, help me out, gardeners, irises? Are these irises? Hold on, I'm just going to have a sip of my drink. The thing that I would say about this piece that is so striking is the perspective. So it's not a view of flowers, right? You're not standing next to the flowers looking over at the flowers and going, wow, flowers, you're really pretty. You are down on the ground and you are looking up at the flowers. At least that's what the perspective feels like for me. And that's really different. We get a lot of God's eye views down on stuff, but we rarely get views looking up towards something. There is something so sort of enchanting and magical and fragile about the shapes here. We've got these strong spears, right? These knives of green that are sticking up. But the flowers themselves, right, have this yellow vein, very exposed, right, very visible. And these purple leaves that are, I don't want to say straggly because I mean this is what the flower looks like, but when I look at orchids, I know that they're beautiful, but I wouldn't say that they're pretty flowers. Do you know what I mean? They're exotic. They're intoxicating. They're a bit sensual looking. There are lots of things, but they aren't like they aren't the kind of flower that you would illustrate by making a circle with a bunch of circle petals around it. They're very striking in their shape, and they're very difficult to portray because their shapes are so irregular and elongated and stretched, and each petal sits weird. I think she's done a noble job of depicting that. It's really an interesting composition to look at. It almost has a surrealist quality to me, but at the same time, it looks something like a botanical illustration. It is like it's fine, it's detailed, the colors are magical, the white background is exciting with a few other color changes. I love the contrast of these floppy, untidy leaves with these strong vein networks inside of them and these spear like blades of glass sticking up. There's a lot of drama in this piece. And, drama in art is great. It's not just for the stage, right? It's not necessarily for every day, but in art, it can be. It can be. This is a very dramatic piece. It's very different. Perspective, very, very different. Really interesting way to look at flowers, and I love the play of the background. Right, it is white with some patches of some sort of off-white colors. Um, but if I were to see this drawn, just the outline of the flowers against the sky, I would be confused about what the composition would actually look like. Now that Elizabeth has filled in the flowers and the stems, and there's more information here, it makes incredible sense, and it's very exciting to look at. It's very shapy and exciting. It's not a boring, stuffy still life, that's for sure. Really unusual. It really reminds me of Van Gogh. He painted a lot of irises, um, and he painted them in fields. It actually really reminds me of a Van Gogh. It's a great inspiration point. I think what he loved about irises was that they were very irregular. They were imperfect looking. They weren't all matchy matchy. They aren't. I think that's what he loved about them was uh, the I don't want to say ugliness about them, but they're the unflowery imperfection of the way that this particular flower is. And the colors can be a bit gothic, right? But in this case, with the white background, it's really playing up the beauty and the softness of these colors, even the darker colors. Quite beautiful. And the greens are very fresh, right? Where I'm going to stop, but where this plant and where this flower can have leaves that look a bit dead, right? Just because of their shape, it doesn't look dead because that green is so vibrant and alive, right? It's a very interesting piece. I'm going to keep going, but I could look at this for a long time and my mouth would keep running. So let's keep going. Karen, holy mackerel, this is your first piece. Karen says, my tiger flower pillow was my second ever rug hooking project and the first that I designed. The image was based on the cover of one of my favorite childhood books called Tiger Flower. I'm pretty sure I hooked it with size 6 strips on linen. I'm sure that I didn't press it before turning it into a pillow because I didn't realize that was a thing back then. The most recent, and it still looks beautiful, Karen. It doesn't matter. It sits perfectly. It just looks beautiful. Okay, so let's look at this one first. So leave it to you, right? You, on your second piece, start designing and design something like this. It's great to take inspiration from your favorite childhood book, right? Like Jessica taking inspiration from her family. When you love something and it's already built into you and who you are, you want to revisit that thing. You want to go to that thing. You want to further immortalize that thing. Those are the very things to go for inspiration when you're doing your own patterns. It is so much fun. There is something that is so appealing about this giant, giant cat face peeking out of all of these pretty little flowers, right? Little flowers, and they're all pretty, and there's a great variety. It really is beautiful. The striping on the tiger is beautiful. The eyes, The expression, right, is very soft. I love the colors. I love, and you know I don't like any form of yellow, but right now I'm loving it, and I can't imagine anything better. I love that the sort of yellow, sort of butterscotchy color in the background really ties in with the tiger. It's almost like the tiger's face is playing hide and seek, hey Ted, with the leaves, but also playing hiding seek within the yellow, right? Like he's hiding inside the yellow, and he's in huge parts yellow. So it adds to that sort of mystique. It matches well, but it adds to that kind of theme of hide and seek. And those black stripes become really dominant and important. And that beautiful shadow over the bridge of the nose is it's absolutely gorgeous. I'm going to keep going. I'm sorry, my mouth has run so much that we're going to run over. I'm sorry about that. But I think we only have a few more, and I know we're enjoying this immensely, so there's no rush, right? Now, Tiger, Karen, was amazing. The tiger flower was amazing. And this is and you designed that. This is the most recent piece that you finished. And this is a David Galshu. I know I'm supposed to say Galshut, but I have a hard time saying that. This is incredible. Karen, this is incredible. So I don't even know where to begin. This is an enormous piece. Do you remember roughly how big this is? Because it's obviously enormous. Um, you have done so many tricks in here with color. I know we saw you working on this piece with articulating the flowers, with adding shading to the flowers. It is incredible. April says it is stunning. It's really, really beautiful. It is really beautiful. It is so well hooked. It's just incredible. It's magic. And it bears a lot in common with the tiger in terms of the composition, right? The main motif with the animal, in this case it's birds, is in the center. And we still have striping in the center, but in this case it's this pretty Asian bird feeder or birdhouse. And in this composition is also surrounded by flowers, and tiger flower was as well. So, you know, there are things that are similar, and I know tiger flower was your design, and this is David Galshu's design. But it does make me think that there are things that you go toward that you love, and in this case, it shows us a really large contrast between the way that you are hooking flowers right now to before. It was more graphic before. It wasn't wrong or it wasn't bad. It was more graphic. You're experimenting, at least in this particular piece, with shading, and it does give incredible depth, realism. This is 28 by 36. That's actually not as big as I thought. You got a lot of detail in there because this is a highly elaborate piece. This is a Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs piece. It is just gorgeous. The colors are absolutely beautiful. But really, with this piece, it's the technical prowess of what you've done that is the absolute standout. It's a beautiful piece, and so was the Tiger Flowers piece. It was absolutely beautiful. Wendy says that, oh, hey Wendy, that the flower shading was absolutely amazing. Amzi, you sent a couple of pieces in too, and you said that you hope to be tuned in. I'm very glad that you are here. Life seems crazy here, and I keep getting interrupted with my hooking things. Oh, God, yeah, right? That is the story of life right now. You are sure ambitious and energetic, which is a good thing. So I'm less energetic tonight. I'm pooping it out tonight. It has been a quietly crazy week for me, too. These are really stunning. And I feel like you wrote something else. Like you wrote of this one, Amzi. I'm thinking, is this is the first piece? Because this is an exceptional piece. And it is traditional, but it's very romantic. It's very well done. It's very light and lighthearted for a traditional piece, right? It is a beautiful floral, certainly in the style of Pearl McGowan, but each one is different, right? Each one is different. Each even if it's the same McGowan pattern, every person is going to hook it differently. And this piece is a great example of that. From flower to flower, we have kind of a bouquet composition. Beautifully done, very soft, right? Very light touch. It's hard to give it a light touch. It's easier to give it drama. It's easier to be loud. We live this um, thought, right? We live this thought. Every time Teddy speaks to me, it is so loud. Even if it's nighttime and we're like trying to wind it down, get tired, get sleepy, he whispers, and his whisper is like, oh my God. And I keep saying, can you talk more quietly, please? And he tries to, but he just can't. I mean, he just can't. Um, and my point is to give something a nice light touch with a light color palette. I find that much harder than doing something very loud and theatrical with a lot of drama. That I find easier. So Amzi says this is the first traditional McGowan Flynn pattern, and it is just charming. It is just. I have it upside. Do I have it upside down? I think I have it upside down. Let me flip it around. I'm sorry about that. Hold on, just a second. Let me see. I know how to. I know how to transform stuff. Let's send it on a trip. One more. One more. Hang on. Sorry, I'm taking you all for a ride. Why is it do? Oh, I'm clicking the wrong place. Hang on. Hang on. Transform. There we go. Because it's supposed to be a heart, right? Is it supposed to be a heart? Let me unlock this. The shape is so pretty. It reminds me of the kind of sachets and things that I used to buy when I was younger or try to sew. It's so pretty. It has so much charm. It is traditional. But it's an exceptional piece. It's an exceptionally well executed piece. It is just, it is just so pretty. See, I am very attracted to pieces like this because although I'm not super traditional, I do love things that are just pretty. I love when things are pretty and colorful. You know what I mean? And there's lots of colors close together. I'm very drawn to stuff like that. It always looks like magical little meadow to me or something, seeing so many different kinds of flowers next to each other. I just love the idea. It's so beautiful. It's an astonishing first piece. It really is. Absolutely beautiful. And the second piece we used for the thumbnail tonight. And Amzi, is this a piece that you designed, or do you remember whose piece this is? This is, I can see your initials on the bottom. This is just amazing. This is a much wider cut. This looks more like an 8 cut primitive. I don't know the size, but I would guess it's an 8. I love the yellows, right? The yellow accents with a pretty sort of blanched face, right? The moon is looking very white. I like a white moon. That's really what the moon looks like, isn't it? And in the background, I feel like we can see another planet, a shooting star, other stars in the sky, this beautiful multicolored background. Oh, it's a Cushing design. How pretty. It reminds me of tapestries. You know, I've seen tapestries with like moon phases and star phases. It reminds me of that. This is much more realistic, right? The eyes are very realistic. The eyebrows, the big full lips. There's a lot of character in this moon face. It is a very human face, right? It is truly a man on the moon kind of a face. April says, I love how you hooked character into the eyes. Great job on this great rug. There's so much character, isn't there? It's so realistic. I love the nose, the shadowing on the nose. I love the wide bridge of the nose. I love the black to the dark gray around the eyes. I love all of the colors in the bottom lip and that kind of pull into the eyebrows. It really is, it's really something. It's super, super atmospheric. It's a very memorable piece. Grady says, what a smile. It is a smile. It's a Mona Lisa smile, isn't it? If the moon looked like Mona Lisa, wouldn't it look exactly like that? It's just that very merest hint of a smile. It is absolutely beautiful. I love this piece. Amzi, thank you so much for sending those in. And the last piece of the night is from Becky Burrell. She says, hi, Deanna. I just finished your coffee time just now, and I thought I'd send these early and recent works. This one is 6 by 12. This is Labrador Retriever, patterned by Sharon Perry, my very first rug. She said, I went to Etsy and typed in rug hooking and picked this because my son has 2 labs. I look at it now and I think, oh my, but it's still on my wall next to my table and will remain there. Absolutely. It's beautifully done, right? I mean, it's a pattern of a silhouette of a dog, right? And this is exactly, it's doing just what it's supposed to do, right? It's supposed to have a high impact. It's a great hit or miss piece. You really played up the colors on the hit or miss. It's really fetching. See what I did there? I love the silhouette of the dog. It's a stiff silhouette. That is how these dogs stand. That is how this motif, I'm sure, is drawn. It's absolutely correct. It's very strong shape against an otherwise very busy background. The reason it can all work is because the dog is very, very strong as a shape. Also very recognizable as a breed. It's absolutely beautiful. To see how, although the dog is dark, you can make out like the little folded down ear and the lines around the back leg up to the hip and the two front legs. So it does have a tiny bit of detail, but all in all, you know, it's a beautiful rug, and I'm glad it's hanging, and I hope it will always be hanging. Not as a reminder of your first rug, just because it's a great example of a hugely successful hit or miss piece with a very strong motif. If you love labs, you love dogs in general, this would be a piece that you would be attracted to. And you hooked it beautifully, right? You hooked it beautifully. You did horizontal hooking that comes out. It's so great. So much motion, right? It's such a classic piece. It has everything that you want a piece of folk art to have in this piece. It's beautiful. Now, oops, wait a minute. I clicked the wrong thing. Um, Now this is your most recent piece. So you said the other one is 28 by 24 Rabbit Rabbit by P is for Primitive, and that's a Cushing brand. I saw this at Lizanne's stall in Sauter Village and I had to have it. My husband fell in love with it, so it's my most recent, ready to be finished and put up in his office. So different, but both so appreciated. And in between so many different styles, etc., because Sauter Village is about 45 minutes from my house, so I'll be waiting to grab one of your classes for next August. Oh, that'll be nice, Becky. I don't think I'll teach, but I will be there with patterns and books and the gallery talk and some of our finished rugs. Um, I love this. This is an incredible piece. You know, this reminds me. It's so detailed. You know, I have seen pieces like this more and more. This is exceptionally well done, but I do sometimes see this idea in those coloring books for adults. You know what I mean? Where there's like the shape of an animal and it's patterned. I have to say, whenever I've seen this idea of a pattern on an animal, I never thought of it with a dark background. And man, that makes the difference. I always think of it with a white background, kind of like a chintz, you know, like very 80s daytime. This is a whole different beast. It's so unexpected. The rabbit's face is kind of emerging from a tapestry of color. My mom says it's a fantasy of colors. It is a fantasy. It is a great fantasy piece. It's so decorative, patterned. It has such a nice blend of fantasy and realism, right? The leaves and the flowers that kind of surround the rabbit's little face are just what we would expect. But that amount of patterning is very unexpected. It's colorful, it's different. There's a controlled color palette, but what a great choice. This dark background with lots of sneaky lines, right? Almost a sketchbook quality to it, with lots of bright colors and lots of greens. We always expect to see a rabbit color rabbit in a green background. In this case, it's a green colored rabbit. Really, really different. Very interesting. The outlining, the little pink outline, right? All of these shapes and designs. This one's getting a lot of comments. It's all fantastic. Karen says, it is, the eye is fantastic, Gail. I mean, even the leaves, right? That very realistic quality to these small leaves with the little skeleton structures inside of them. And the flowers, even though they're bright, they're not upstaging the rabbit, right? This is a very controlled piece, right? There's a lot of instinctive stuff happening here. It's fantastic. Karen says it reminds me of a scratch board, and it definitely does. A scratch board, you know, is when you take a piece of paper or make it thick paper. and you color it until it's absolutely solid with wax crayon or crayons. Remember crayons, the oil crayons, until it's covered, covered, not an inch of backing showing, and then paint watercolor black paint or any dark color, right? It's usually black, but any dark color on top of it, and make sure that your crayon colors are brighter. Watercolor or gouache paint on top of it. Definitely wait for it to dry, and then pick at it with like the head of a pin or a little. You can't do it with a pencil because it will make the pencil mark. But anything with a sharp tip, like from a manicure set, something like that. Tip of a knitting needle, possibly toothpick. There's lots of things that you can use, but as you scratch away at a scratch board, it reveals unexpectedly and randomly all of the different colors that are beneath it, but the black remains until you scratch it off. Of course, you don't scratch all of it off or you don't have a picture anymore. It does have a scratch board quality to it. That's a great thing to leave you with over the weekend, right? Talk about a great design idea. Doing your own scratch board and then trying to create a pattern that is based on your scratch board. That would be a brilliant project to do for the weekend. If you don't have a project on deck and maybe you're taking a break from life or from art or whatever, what a great thing to do, to save it for later, or do it tomorrow. If you come up with something amazing, you're going to say, whoa, I just created a pattern. This is an exceptional piece, Becky. It's absolutely beautiful. These were all beautiful pieces. Sitting back, I'm getting away from this light because I feel like it's the heat is one of the things that's making me so sleepy. And I've hardly touched this, so you know it's not that. I had a great night tonight, everybody. Thank you for sending your beautiful pieces. As always, you know that you can always send me to ribboncandyhooking@gmail.com pieces for gallery night. Just write gallery night in the title, right? We'll be due for gallery night in 2 weeks from now. Not next week, not the next one, but the one after that, because we did one last week. Send me stuff for gallery night. Send me, if you haven't done a first and last, send me your first and last and write first and last in the title, right? And then I'll put them into the respective folders and I'll save them for the next time we have these special nights. But yeah, keep the work coming in. When you think of it or when you encounter it on your computer, when you photograph something, send it then and I'll hold on to it for us. And we'll look at it together next time that show comes up, because this is a show I would love to repeat. We can't do this forever, right? Or maybe we can. It depends on how many new people keep coming into the group and sending their first and lasts, right? Because we can only look at each person's first and last once, right? We looked at mine. We looked at a few other people's tonight. There's a lot more people to see your first and last from. And for those of you who are coming in, maybe as time goes on, you send us your first and lasts, and we can keep this evening going. Certainly, gallery night will go on and on, Titanic song style. And you can always send those pieces to me. Remember, Magpie Magazine closes for submissions for the winter issue on November 15th, which will be Sunday. So let's say Sunday or Monday. Make sure your Magpie stuff is in. You can send it to me at ribboncandyhooking@gmail.com, or you can send it to Magpie Times Magazine at gmail.com. Either one is fine. Oh, good, Dave. I'm glad you had a good night. And Carol, oh, sure thing. It was lots of fun to be together. It was a fun show. It was a fun show. I'm so sorry I'm so tired. It's not because I'm bored. There's something else going on. I think it might be the time change thing is really getting me. Because we drove over here not that long ago. It was so dark. It was like it was bedtime, I am a little bit thrown for a loop, and I guess it's not going to get better before it gets a little bit worse. But that's okay. We're here. We're here for each other. We're working on our projects. We're talking about stuff that we love. We're connecting, and we're showing up. And yeah, we're heading into a beautiful season, even if we're a little bit sleepy. I will see you on Monday. I will be here on Monday. I think Monday is Veterans Day, isn't it? I will be here on Monday, and I forget what I had in mind for us to do, but I will be with you at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. That will be our next show together. Happy weekend, everybody. Send your stuff in as you finish it, and send in any other emails if you want to touch base on ideas, projects of any sort. You can always write to me, and you know that I will write you back. It might not be in the next 15 minutes. It might be 1 minute later if I'm on the computer. But you know that I will write you back with all of your great ideas and answers to whatever it is that you need. But in the meantime, have a great weekend, and I will see you Monday.